Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Mountaineer Locker Room then and now. I'm Greg Crist, joined, of course, by Frank Fear. Frank, welcome in, and it's good to see you again. Get closer and closer. Say it every week.
Boy, I'll tell you. And I tell you, if you need some entertainment, all you have to do is turn on Rich Rod's press conferences because you can tell he knows it's getting close and
Oh, yeah.
hits you with a lot of philosophy and a lot of good statements. And he wants those kids to be tough and play tough. I mean, the one line he had yesterday, Greg, you saw it, I know. He said, when the offensive and defensive lines come together, it's like tango dancing. And so they're gonna do a scrimmage with referees on Saturday, and we're getting closer. But one of the things everybody's concerned about are these players that have had their waivers denied. There are a couple of players there that we need desperately.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm anxious. Yeah, that plays out. And I watched his press conference when they brought that up to him, and he apparently wasn't aware that they had filed a lawsuit. And but he seemed fully supportive of it. And looking back into history, West Virginia's history with the NCAA, seems like there's been a number of rulings that most people felt were very unfair. And I think this is a situation where it's not an unfair ruling; it's just the fact that they wouldn't tell them anything. And these guys just are sitting around waiting, and the season's getting closer and closer, and they're dragging their feet. And I don't know how long it takes them to make a decision like that, but my goodness, they need to let them know. And you can't blame the kids for trying to expedite it a little bit, speed it up, because the season's here, and they need to know one way or the other. And if I read correctly, their argument is the fact that they played in non-NCAA schools prior to this, and then had the waiver for that 1 year. So in most people's minds, it's really not a question of whether they should be eligible or not, but it is the NCAA. So who knows, what they're going to rule. So I'm glad that they're doing that and trying to get that decision sped up a little bit, because it's not fair that those guys have to sit and wait like that. If they're going to declare eligible and say a decision's pending about it, or they can't do anything until the decision is made, well, then they need to go ahead and make the decision one way or the other, so they'll know what their future is. It's not fair to have them just sitting there waiting.
Oh, you're absolutely correct. And boy, I'll tell you, we need Jamori Robinson, defensive end, 300 pounds, 6'4", and everybody knows about Ty Edwards. He was heralded early in the transfer portal process as essentially the heir to the Donaldson position to back up Jaheim White. And so these are two really good and important players that we can't afford to miss. The other thing is, I think I don't know if it was today or yesterday, Coach talked about going back into the portal, even though at this late date, going back into the portal, which suggests that's some backing up that he wants to do. And yet, what's interesting about that too, I sort of balances off in the sense that, John Antonic, our guest last week, raised a really good question, Greg, when he talked about, have you seen enough of the players now to know who's the top tier, my words, top tier and backup players? And he basically said, look, I hope we don't have to face that. I want to play everybody. If I could play 80 players a game, not just to play them, but to, I want that kind of depth, which means he wants guys going 100% all the time. And so, as you and I have talked about forever, we're not going to know until we know. I mean, it sounds stupid, but it really is. We're not going to know until we see these guys on the field. But the one thing, and I was thinking about our dear friend Wolfley, Dale Wolfley, about the fact, always concerned about not being tough enough, but that's a theme that Rodriguez is harping on, and that's Mountaineer football.
Yeah, and also, we've talked about the quarterback situation for weeks now. He's still kind of mum on that. He did say the other day the same thing he said about the other issues, and that is, if I got three quarterbacks that are, if they're winning, we're going to play them. And so he's not, not basically said it doesn't matter who starts. Uh, if we got people that are capable of coming in and helping us, then we're going to let those guys in. So it's going to be interesting to see. And in a situation like that, if you have quarterbacks that are equal, I mean, I know you got to get reps and that sort of thing, but if one's having an off day, you're not afraid to go to the others, and that's probably a good sign. And yeah, looking for that depth. It's going to be interesting. I can't wait. I think I heard today it was 17 days until what they call week zero. I guess that's when they have a few games, and the full season don't kick off until the following week, but 17 days. So
That's right. Yeah.
I'll
Well,
tell you what, it'll be
it's
fun
going to
too
be
because
something we're looking forward to.
oh yeah, those matchups that first week are some tremendous matchups. It's going to be fun to watch, but more interesting than that, we're waiting on WU to start and forward to. That being said, Frank, I think we need to go ahead and get our guests in here. I know a lot of people are looking forward to this. I'm old enough to watch Mike play, and when you watched him play, you look back on it now. It just reminds you of the old school football player, just a big, strong guy that just got in there and threw people around and tackled people with ferocity and just a hard nosed football player. Harkens back to the days of Dick Buckus. That's what I always think of when you see Mike play. That's what it was like. And man, what a beast he was in the middle of that line. And I think anybody that's a Mountaineer fan fondly remembers Mike Fox. And of course, he went on to a great NFL career, a couple Super Bowl rings. I think at WU, second team All American, if I'm not mistaken. And we're thrilled. We had hoped to get him on up in Morgantown, and we had some overheating equipment up there that threw us off the air, so we wasn't able to get to him. So we're tickled to death to have Mike with us tonight. So, Darren, if you want to bring Mike in, Mike, welcome to the show. Appreciate you taking the time to be with us.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, our pleasure.
Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here.
Yep, absolutely, and we're thrilled to have you. And we always talk about when we have you guys on what we want to know this right off the bat. How did you end up at WVU? What got you to Morgantown? Who recruited you, and how did all that unfold?
Well, it was like I was 6'4", maybe. When I learned, it was I had Mike Jacobs, Rob Jakes,
Hey, Mike, I think you're breaking up just a little bit there on us.
even with the Wi-Fi. I mean, Russ J, Mike Davis, Dwight Wallace, they all came into Ohio and recruited me. You want me to, if this isn't working, you want me to call in?
Get better.
It was and one of the reasons. I mean, I thought I could be successful in Virginia. I visited, I had my peers.
Okay. All right. So, Frank, we're having a little bit of technical problem with Mike's connection.
Yeah, and it's yeah, for the for the people who are watching, this is a little bit surprising because we were on an hour ago. Mike was gracious enough and Darren to do a pilot, and it was working. But
Worked
the
perfectly.
problem with streaming is just when you have people at distant locations, this can happen, and that's what we have. So we apologize for that.
And of course, that.
Okay, trying to work it out, Craig.
Yeah, of course, it never
Okay.
fails. It doesn't go bad until you get on the air.
That's right.
Everything works fine until then. So, but anyway, well, until we get Mike back on, we can continue to talk about the season coming up and Coach Rodriguez's press conferences, like you said, been very interesting, and I think he's probably in the same boat a lot of us are in, and that is just you don't really know yet. I'm sure he has a much better idea than we do, but I'm sure there's a lot of things that they're looking forward to seeing and figuring out. And again, we talked about the schedule. One of the good things about, not that the teams that we play early are going to be pushovers, but it's not Penn State and Pitt and those folks. So it gives him a chance to see people in live action against other players and, get an idea of where they need to work. And so I know they're looking forward to it, and I know they're looking forward to getting started because, the spring ball and then the practices and the practice sessions after a while, they start to wear people down, and they still got a couple weeks, to work out all the kinks and everything. But, they're anxious to play against somebody else. That's always important. And I think it's a good thing that, we're playing some of these, lesser opponents to start with.
Yeah, definitely. And, I think that's one of the reasons why Saturday's practice with scrimmage and referees is so important. So you can get a sense of game-like situations. Yeah. He did talk today about not only about the quarterbacks, but he's a lot. I don't want to use the words he's a lot more comfortable than he was, because I don't think that's fair. But how comfortable he is now with the wide receiver room, particularly with the speed. Size in some cases may not be as great, but he's pleased with that. The other thing that I wanted to bring up tonight, Craig, is not a big headline, but it's going to have implications. You and I have talked forever about the ESPN package that a lot of the Big 10, a lot of the Big 12 games are kicked to Big 12 plus, which means that you have to subscribe to Big 10 plus, Big 12 plus. Well, Big 12 announced an agreement with Peacock starting this season, which means that some of the Big 12 games, we don't know which ones yet, are going to be on Peacock, which is connected to NBC. And I can tell you, living in Big 10 country up here in Michigan, I very rarely watch Michigan State when they're on Peacock because we don't subscribe. We would have no need to subscribe just to watch a few games a year. And I don't watch all the Michigan State games, even though I worked there for decades. I don't watch all of them anyway. So the bottom line is we usually don't watch Michigan State on Peacock. But this is going to be another dent in fans' pocketbooks to be able to watch games on Peacock. And but this is where everything's going. It's all pay-per-view because the money is necessary. When you think about the financing of big-time football, the media drives it. And as a consequence, all the games aren't going to be on regular commercial television.
Yeah, and I heard a discussion today about some kind of package now ESPN is putting together called ESPN 29 or something to that effect, and you're going to have to get that in order to see a lot of these games. And they were talking about maybe the NFL, and then they said, well, the NFL probably won't do it because they're working with Amazon, blah blah blah, and all these things. But yeah, it was like $29.95. They said ESPN wants you to purchase it, so they bundle in some other stuff, Disney and some other things. And I just thought, it's going to get to the point to where, no matter who you're a fan of, you're going to have to pay to watch. Period.
Sure.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And speaking of Peacock, Frank, I
Yeah.
get Peacock. I shouldn't say this on the air, but I get Peacock. I watch the Dan Patrick show every day on there.
Huh.
Peacock. I'm not sure how I get it or why I get it. I don't say anything that I know of. So what it is, I don't know how I get it. But I'm not going to say anything about it because I don't want to lose before football season starts.
Well, come game day, I'm down at your place.
There you go.
Mike's back.
All right, Mike's back. I can actually see him too. We got him on video as well.
Yeah, you're looking crisp.
Yes,
Not crisp. You're looking crisp, Mike.
Yeah, somehow this camera just activated itself when I called you back. So.
Well,
and the voice is so much better.
Oh,
Wow.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what he fixed, but he fixed it. So
You did it. You did it.
Frank, I mentioned to him up there, it was funny when I talked to him at Morgantown briefly. I just told him, I said, you're maybe the biggest person I've ever seen. You're a big man. And he said, you haven't seen this guy yet. He was talking about what was his name, Mike? I forgot.
John Ray.
John Ray. I said John Gay.
Yeah, Big John Ray.
Big John Ray down Charleston area. He come walking out the door, and I noticed it got shady. The sun disappeared. Gosh, you're right. That is the biggest human I've ever seen. So
Now,
anyway,
did I hear this right, guys? Mike, you when you came to Morgantown, you were 214.
I was tall and skinny. I was about as skinny as your pinky, and I looked like a basketball player, but there's a whole lot more inside me. That's for sure. You know what I mean?
So let's get back to our original question. I don't think we got much of the answer. We heard a few names, but go ahead and talk about how it all unfolded that you ended up. You said you were tall, 214, which is hard to believe. How you ended up at WVU, who recruited you, and how you decided to come to Morgantown.
Well, I just, I took like 4 out of 5 visits, and I really liked West Virginia. I visited Michigan State, I visited Kentucky, I visited Memphis State, and I really liked West Virginia. I just thought I could be successful there, and it worked out.
Yeah, who was responsible for recruiting you?
Well, I had Russ Jakes, Mike Jacob, Dwight Wallace's, the brother. I think it was brothers, and they all recruited Ohio, and they helped me get there. Coach Nealon, they came here, and back then it was pretty exciting, So nowadays it's a whole lot different. Everybody's on the internet, and by golly, if you're in kindergarten, they're going to be recruiting you now.
So Darren, I don't know if it's getting on my end or not, but I had a little trouble hearing him there just for a second. He was coming in loud and it faded away. Okay, as long as we can hear him well, then we'll keep going. All right, so Mike, I know when you got to WVU, you played during a period where we think back on the Mountaineers as being just a tough bunch of football players, and we've talked about it numerous times on the show about how we feel like over the last few years we've kind of gotten away from that toughness. We always said that back in the day when people played WVU, they knew they were in a game because it was so physical. You obviously were a very physical player in your time, but talk about what you see as the difference in when you played and then what's happened at Morgantown the last 6 years.
I mean, when I played, and no disrespect to the current era of all the football and all, not just college and pros as well. I talked about this last year when I went to I was Carolina Panthers. We had a 30-year reunion, but we played when people were running the ball, and they were running the ball north and south. So I say, well, we were in the North and South League versus the East and West League. Nothing's wrong with East and West, but it just, it seems like everybody was pounding the rock between the tackles back when I played, and they were doing it, about 2/3 of the time versus a third of the time to pass. So then things flipped. Different reasons why. Um, you know, head traumas. You can call them concussions. You can call them just blows to the head, so to speak. So I think they did a lot to, show the game with minimal collisions to the head area. So I think that's kind of what happened and what's kind of, and it's been like this for a while because I was in the league, the NFL league in '97, and then they you could just tell the offenses started to change how they were, running the ball. In particular, they were zoning left and zoning right and going wide. So they've just developed that, and it's just been going on. I mean, I'm sure it's a good thing, but I just think you had north and south players. Linebackers actually had to, not that they don't, but you had to come fill up into that, guard or center versus running east and west of the sideline. So I think the league and all the leagues, for the sake of safety, has changed, and I think that's what's happened. Um, as far as the part about you know the way the game is played today, they don't even, from what I hear, I don't know as facts, but even in the NFL, I hear they don't even do 9-on-7 like we used to have to do it in the old days, which is inside run drill. So that's why you see a lot of people, that actually sometimes they'll go back to that old formation, and then some of the defenses don't know how to deal with it, and when you pound the rock between the tackles, you better have some defense that could stop it. So, and we were a very physical team. My whole life was physical, to be physical, and there's a lot of dimensional things you can measure, but at the end of the day, if you fought your butt off, and you can look in the mirror knowing that you left it all on the field, I'm going to say that's a good day. But you got to have good teachers. Teachers need to know how to train and teach the players. It's not just line up in this particular position and play ball. There's so many things that could happen to a guy in there, and across the field. So there's just a lot to learn, and there's a lot to do, and there's a technique for everything. So you gotta know how to make adjustments. If they want to start running wide and they start wanting to do the zones, which they are, and they have been doing for quite some time now, well then there's adjustments for that for defense. They just gotta train them feet and those legs a little bit differently. But that's some of the things I have noticed.
You mentioned having good teachers and that sort of thing. A lot of our viewers love to hear stories about Coach Don Nealon. Of course, um, uh, you had time with him as a teacher and a coach. So let's hear a little bit about your reflections on Coach Nealon and your time at WVU.
Well, I mean, I think Coach Nealon was a great coach as far as he knew what players to put where, and then he actually, he had coaches that could train us. And my coach in particular was Coach Bill Kurlavich. So anybody that knows Bill Kurlavich knows that he was a very intense coach, and I'm thankful for everything that he had taught me, and he definitely helped get me going, as far as I did in life. Because the road after West Virginia, it didn't get easier. I went to the Giants, and Bill Parcells was my head coach, and then Bill Belichick was the defensive coordinator. Romeo Crennel was my D-line coach, so they really had a high standard. And then after that, we got Dan Reeves, who was a hard coach, And then my D-line coach was Earl Leggett, and you look him up, he's pretty world renowned. He taught me a lot of different things. And then I went to Carolina and Panthers, and Dom Capers was my head coach, and then Vic Fangio was the defensive coordinator, and so was and then I had some D-line coaches there that were good too. So I've been fortunate and blessed to have good teachers, but you got to be able to um, you know you got to teach youngins and you got to teach veterans. Every year you can learn something new. I don't care if you were the first round pick or the last round pick. Programs need to be able to receive players so that they can make them better, because if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. So you better just keep working on that on a daily basis.
Frank, you want to jump in?
Well, as you're talking there, Mike, it made me think of a conversation I had today with another athlete. And, it's paradoxical, I think, to a lot of people, is that when you're a pro athlete like yourself and when you were at West Virginia, you make it look easy. But the trick to making it look easy is to work really hard, to be diligent, and to constantly learn. Because what that does is enhance your on-the-field IQ, and having great coaches who can not only teach you but show you and motivate you. And you were lucky to have coaches like that in college and the pros. And one of the things that stuck out to me about, and I was talking to Stevie Berger, who was a great basketball player at West Virginia, and he still is a number one assist person in WVU history. But what struck me about him was what a great rebounder he was at about 6 feet, and he may not have been even that tall. Just had an eye for knowing where the ball was going to be. For you, the thing that stuck out, when we think about players who are all valuable MVPs, you as a defensive tackle you were named the most valuable player in the Gator Bowl. How does a player, a defensive player, stand out so significantly that people who are voting will say, not the quarterback, not the guy that scored the touchdown, not the wideout, but a defensive tackle gets to be MVP?
Yeah, I mean, I feel blessed that I got that. I just, you never know what play it's going to be. You're going to play, 65 to 75, maybe 80 plays in a game, and you don't know which one's going to be the one. So I just, I tried to play everything as hard as I could and as fierce as I could, and just definitely didn't want to be the guy to, cause a problem. But, there's always a couple plays you want back. But, overall, 4 or 5 plays change the game. So you just don't want it to be on you. But, yeah, I loved that award and being able to receive that in the Gator Bowl. That was a good way to cap my senior year off,
Yeah, absolutely. One other thing I'm going to bring up, Greg, if I had someone asked me the other day about if you had a photograph hanging in your living room and then attached a name to it, as it applies to Mike Fox, I would like to have a photograph in my living room of a shot of Mike Fox when Norwood went up to kick that ball in the Super Bowl when Buffalo played the New York Giants, and then missed that kick wide right. I could just imagine Mike's contortion as that ball went off the holder's hands and went up and didn't win the Super Bowl. That was a great game for West Virginia fans with you playing for the Giants, Hostetler at quarterback. That has to be one of the biggest memories of your football career.
I can tell you a little. I could ad lib on that story for you if you'd like.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Well, I'll tell you what. I was out there on the field when that was getting ready to go down. Me and Eric Howard were in the middle of that. And he looked at me, and he was our nose tackle, he said, if you ever want anything more in your life right now, we got to try to dig these boys out. So if you go back and look at some of that film, I know we don't get a lot of credit, but me and him, we knocked those people back pretty good. And I'm just hoping that was just enough to distract that kick. And I'm going to say it probably was, but, you can go back and rewind that film and look, but me and him were digging them out pretty good. So that was good to be out there. And I didn't know he missed the kick until I rolled off the ground and looked up. So it was a great day for us to be a New York Giant. It was a heck of a football game, and they had quite a team. Those Buffalo Bills were a very good football team. So we were fortunate to win that game. We had lost to them early, or we had lost to them at some time in the winter in the Meadowlands. We had a ice storm that day, but we had lost to them in regular season, so I was glad to go back and make sure the one that mattered was the one that we got. So as far as the victory was concerned.
Great story. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to ask a personal question, I guess you call it. When you signed with the Giants, what was your contract like? I know you look at them today and it's just unbelievable. And I know a lot of guys we talked to that played before look at what goes on now with the money and that sort of thing. Are just amazed by it. But what was your first contract like?
Well, my first contract, I was grateful and I was thankful. And, it was like I got a $225,000 signing bonus and it was a 3-year deal. I think it was like, and then it was like 225 to sign, 185, 215, and then like 235. 235,000 on the third year and there was like $25,000 roster bonuses. And that was great money coming out of college. So
absolutely.
I was thankful for that opportunity, and I was able to keep going. And I was fortunate to be able to have 9 seasons playing defensive line in the NFL, and I'm still walking around, so I still feel pretty healthy. So thank God for all that. But no, it was a big deal for me, and I was just thankful that I got to do it.
You, I ask you another question about that time. You got obviously talking to you here and seeing you and listening to you sounds so personable and friendly and that sort of thing. How about endorsements? Did you have I laugh because I interviewed Lonnie Warwick several times, and I know he had told me his initial contract was $9,000. He told me that he decided he was going to go in and negotiate the contract, and he went in and they said, well, here's your contract. It's $9,000. And he said, well, can we negotiate this a little bit? And it's like, no, there is no negotiation. You either take it or leave it. It's $9,000. That's what you're getting. And then he said he did some beer commercials locally, and got $150 a whack on those. So I always laugh when I hear those types of things. But I think you would be a great pitch man for products. Just you just got a personality. It looks like on the screen. Did you do many endorsements back then?
Well, I can endorse anything that's a good product and anything that's genuine. So, it's got to mean something, that's for sure. When I was coming through the league, I'm not saying they had a different type of method of picking people and doing things like that. I'm not saying I didn't get to do a couple things here and there, but being a player, there's a couple things you need to understand quickly. Is you don't know how long your candle's going to burn in the league, meaning how many years you're going to get. So you need to try to make as much money as you can for as long as you can. All the old guys told me when I came into the league, they said, hey, if you don't do anything, make sure you own your house and make them throw you out of the league. That was the theme. That was the theme from a lot of the old guys. And so when I got to be an old guy, I tell that to the young guys. So, nobody wants to leave the league. I enjoyed playing the game, But there's a day that there's an expiration date on your forehead, even though you may not want it to be. But you came in on fire, just leave on fire, and just be grateful over the time that you had, because there's a whole lot of things that could go wrong with you if you hang out there too long. So, like I said, I was fortunate to get 9 good seasons in the NFL, and that's when they really, I'm going to say the NFC East was brutal in the early 90s, and then when I went to Carolina Panthers, it was pretty brutal there too, because the teams played physical, and if you didn't have anything else on your chart, you better learn how to play physical in life, and that was the way it was. So you had to be built for that type of brutality, and I enjoyed training for it, and I enjoyed being in it, and I enjoyed fighting to the bitter end. And where the score ended up at the end of the day is where it ended up. But I made sure I could go home and look in the mirror, and hopefully you can do it again the next week. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I was.
Absolutely. Well, to be clear, I wasn't asking you to endorse anything. I didn't want you to think that, but I'm just saying, if anybody ever approaches me and says, "Do you know anybody who would be a good spokesperson for this?" I'm gonna tell them to call you, because I just think you got the. What you do now when your career up in Carolina? After that, tell us about your life from that point on. What'd you do after football?
Well, I've done a couple things, but I did I've made some neighborhoods before. I did some development work, built some houses, and then I ended up doing granite countertops for over 20 years, and that was interesting, and it was it was fun for a while, and so on and so forth. And I bought properties too, and I sold some. I still got a couple left, but just I basically did everything and anything that I thought I could do, and now I'm just kind of I'm waiting to do a new adventure, so I'm just kind of ready to try and do something different. So we'll see what comes of that. But other than that, I'm going to say I'm partially retired. I'll just say 75% retired. How about that?
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty good plan to me.
Yeah, you know what I mean. It's like I want to do something too, but I want it to matter, and it's going to have to matter, or I'm just not going to do nothing. You know what I'm saying? So,
Frank, go ahead.
I was going to say that as I hear Mike talk, and I think about those great defenders, particularly of the 1980s, with Darryl Talley, and you can go down the list. And
yeah, he's a homeboy. He's from Cleveland.
That's
from
right.
Ohio. So
yeah, and it's that the attitude. You think of Freddie Boom, Small, the attitude you guys had, and you can see it wasn't just an attitude that was there and gone. It really is a life expression, because when Mike, when you talk, and when the other guys from the 80s talk, it's the other era that it reminds me of is the Mountaineers of the 50s, with Huff and that crowd that, again, went to the NFL and distinguished themselves, particularly on the defensive side. I mean, I was thinking about when you were talking about that Super Bowl, I'm not sure I can think of another Super Bowl that had 3 Mountaineers playing, and there may have been more, but I mean, it was you and Hostetler and Darryl Talley. There may have been more.
3 was such a major impact. I want to add.
Yes, these are guys that are headliners.
Yeah, I mean, Mountaineers are tough. At least the Mountaineers I know were always tough. So, it's time to start bringing toughness back to Morgantown. So, not to try to start up anything, but I'm just saying if you don't do nothing, I want you to beat the snot out of the person in front of you, and then everything else will start taking place. You know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah, it's interesting on that, because one of the things that this is something obviously that Coach Rodriguez is really harping on, and he's putting it in a broader perspective. He made a comment. I actually wrote it down about the fact that when he stopped practice the other day because he was upset, and he stopped it before he had intended to stop it, and then didn't say why until later. And he made the comment. This is what I wrote down. He said, some of these guys, it's not a matter of them not knowing what to do, but it's a matter of being able to just take a break, so to speak. And he said that's really attitude, it's toughness, it's persistence. And he said that's something we've got to really address. And he said it's not just these players on this team. He talked about it in terms of more of a societal thing, that if you can relax and take the easier way out than taking the tougher road, you might do that. And when you think about the guy, you guys in the 80s, and you think about the Huff teams of the 50s, that was a different mindset.
Well, I'll tell you what, there is no easy way out. There's never been an easy way out. I mean, the bottom line is, I'm going to just express it to you this way. If you're on offense and the other team is on defense, it's either 1st and 7 or it's 1st and 13. Meaning the offense is going to knock some people off the ball so bad that they only have 7 yards to go. Or if we're playing defense, it's 1st and 13, meaning we knock them 3 yards back, and it's 1st and 13, and they're not going to be able to time themselves out of that change of, to get a first down. So that's the first thing. Is it 1st and 7 or is it 1st and 13? So the power to stop people is the most unbelievable thing that you can embolden your team with. Yeah, I want our team to score 100 points, but I don't want nobody scoring 99 either. So the power to stop is the power play of all. So, we got to get really good at stopping folks. And that requires a whole lot of technique and effort. Defense is what? 75% perspiration and 25% mental. So, you got to get humping to the ball. You never know what happens when you all run to the ball. Whoever's got the ball, run to the ball. You know what I'm saying? That's it.
Yeah.
Something's always good going to happen if you're hustling.
Greg, I got to leave this show early. He's got me so revved up. I see my neighbor across the street. I'm going to go tackle him. I mean, that's when you talk about endorsements, you can have Rodriguez get Mike in front of the team, because that's absolutely correct. What you're speaking is truth.
Listen, there is so many things that West Virginia can and should do in the very near future, and they need to involve their alumni in a way to make us ambassadors of their program, so that we can be part of the help get West Virginia special again. I would love to help make West Virginia get special again. So there's a lot of ways of doing it, but I don't want to step on anybody's toes. So
that's why the varsity club is really important, and the job that Kevin Johnston is doing to follow up with the great job, we've talked about this before, that Dale Wolfley did, because the players were very much engaged. And you saw it at the golf tournament in Morgantown. You were there, that there were more football players there for that, and that's a positive sign, because you're absolutely correct.
It's a wonderful sign, but if we got to have success in Morgantown, West Virginia, with the Rich Rodriguez West Virginia Mountaineers, we need to dig deeper and go deeper. That's how I see this.
Mike, do you get back to? Do you still live in Akron, in Ohio?
Yeah, I'm in Akron now. Yep.
You get back.
I'll be coming down to some games and stuff.
Okay. That's what we were doing. Yeah, I was going to ask if you got down to some games. We were just curious, because
Yeah,
we have
and
noticed
Kevin Johnson is doing a great job. I mean, I spoke to him while I was down there too, and then after I had gotten back. But you know, from a serious note, you know, we need to call on all Mountaineers across the country because West Virginia needs that network to embolden our people to being on the road to success again. So I don't want to be people's homecoming favorite. Okay, that time needs to go. So it's time to start putting the fear of God in the enemy, and the enemy's our opponent. So that's the least we can do to get started.
Yeah, Frank, I agree with you. He needs to be back here talking to the team.
Well, you know,
I
it's
mean,
part of the it's part of the culture building, Greg. You and I have been talking about this. We've had players on this show, Mike, who have said not as eloquently as you did, but just as emphatically that those opportunities need to be there, and it's really part of the culture building. This is, you know, we're all standing on other people's shoulders, and the
You know what?
credibility.
You know what half the problem is? Half the problem is people don't know how to dig deep enough. They gotta work harder. They gotta work longer. You know, if you don't get it, you gotta stay longer. I know they got different rules and all that stuff now, but you know, I'm from the time where if you don't get it right, then you start it over. I mean, I'm in the NFL. Bill Parcells, 1990. We had a horrible practice you know, to start with. And what did he do? He blew the whistle, sent us all back in, grown men, and we had to start completely all over again. So sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you have to pull the cars around the field to put the lights on so you can, you know, start all over again because you just didn't get it right till it got dark. But I mean, I know there's different rules now, but I'm serious. The mentality is don't stop until you get it right. If you don't get it right during the week, you're not going to get it right on Saturday. It's just a fact.
flipping back here just a little bit, Mike, you mentioned some of your coaches. You have any? I know people would love to hear this. Any Bill Parcells or Bill Belichick stories you could share with us?
Well, I can tell you one story about Bill Parcells. Other than him being a very good coach, and I mean this, he's a very good coach. I appreciated the opportunity that he let me, you know, be part of that team. And you know, he did not like many rookies. Let me just put it that way. But when I first got to camp, so you're gonna like this story. So I held out 10 days, all right, to get the money that I had gotten, and that's cool. But we're out there, and all of a sudden, you know, he comes over to me and he's just kind of talking like, you know, civil to me, and he goes, "Did you see that movie Days of Thunder?" Because he knew I held out for 10 days, and you know, of course, I said, well, yeah." I said, "Yeah, I did." And he said, "You can get in a race car that fast, and you will not catch up with what you've missed while you've been gone." And he just like yelled it at me like that. I'm just like, Lord have mercy.
That's a great story.
But I'll tell you what, and I don't know what people's. I mean, I know that the coaching style has had to change for, you know, a lot of different reasons. I mean, hell, it was 1997 when they finally said, "Hey, it's okay. You can drink as much water as you want." I'm down there in Spartanburg, South Carolina. I'm like, "Here, give me some of that water," you know, because you know people were dehydrating and dying in other areas, you know, passing away. Unfortunately, some good players, but you know, it took them that long to figure out about water. I'm just like, Lord have mercy, you know what I mean? So, but you know, I was there when they said it's okay to drink as much as you want. I'm like, give me some water. Because you know, if you ask for too much water, they looked at you like you was weak in the old days. Now I hear they're, you know, I hear they have breaks and extra, goodies on the field. But God bless them. But you know what? I don't care if they're hungry. I want a hungry player. I want players that have tenacity, and I want the other team to know that they was in the game. So, and you don't get that by being, hitting pillows. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I'm at with that.
Yeah, I can remember back in the day when I was playing a little bit of football in middle school and high school, they gave you salt tablets. They give you water. You got salt tablets.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the funny thing about salt tablets, I never had to take a salt tablet a day in my life until I went to Carolina Panthers, and we're down there in Spartanburg, South Carolina, doing 2-a-days. And let me tell you something, I needed some more salt too. So I started taking salt tablets back then. I was like, Lord have mercy. Salt tablets, and then they finally said you can have as much water as you want. I'm like, thank
God. I'm anxious to hear about what about Coach Belichick? I know he gets the rap there for these dryness and all that, but also,
I mean, Coach Belichick. I mean, hats off to him. He was an excellent coach, still an excellent coach. He knows what he's doing. I'm not saying he's an easy person to understand, but really the bottom line is that's just what they did. Belichick, Parcells, and that whole type of regime, they really weren't about kissing no players' asses. You just needed to do your job. And they took their players and they utilized their whatever our assets was, and we utilized them to the best of all of our abilities. And they was able to put that together. And they weren't afraid to work. And those coaches, they don't get a lot of credit, but those guys didn't. They don't get to go home when we get to go home. They're still there working until the midst of the night, helping getting all the information ready for us to, try to digest the next day. But I mean, Belichick, very good coach. I worked hard for him. I never, I always hustled and tried to get better. And as long as you was doing that, you was in there. You was on their good side of it. But I mean, I wanted to do that anyways for myself.
When you again, I know I'm jumping around here with different things, but I'm watching some of your highlights right now. It's fun to watch while I'm listening to you. But looking back at the Super Bowl, you see what a spectacle it is today. It was a spectacle then as well, not quite to the level it is today. But what's your memories of that whole week and a half experience there?
Well, if you remember that experience, we'll start where it kind of started. We were in San Francisco. We had to get through those, the tough 49ers, okay? So we had that game out there, and tough battle. But before we went out to that game, Parcells told everybody pack for 2 weeks. So everybody packed for 2 weeks, he says, because we're not coming back home. So we went out there, and we played the Niners, and we won that game, which got us sprung to the Super Bowl. And if you recall correctly, they had that, I'm going to call it the Gulf War back then. So there was no 2 weeks. It was like, we're going to, they shrunk it, and it was like 1 week away. So we weren't going to go and hang out there for 2 weeks. It was 1 week, get in and get out. And we packed for 2 weeks, and then we went there, and it was a heck of a football game, let me tell you. So Buffalo Bills was, they were averaging, I want to say, if I recall correctly on these stats, I think they was averaging 60 points a game in the playoffs back in that time, and that's a whole lot of points. That's like a point a minute. So we're thinking, wow, how do we slow that down? You know what I mean? So, and we came up with a good game plan for those boys. So thank God. Belichick, Parcells, great game plan. I think it's in the Hall of Fame too. So
Oh, didn't know that. Awesome. What about reflected on some of the better players that you? I know you faced some real dogs in there, but some of the better players you remember playing against when you were in the NFL.
Well, the way I let me just put it this way. I do it in kind of years and segments. So like the offensive line for the Washington Redskins in the early '90s was very good from left to right. Okay, so I'm going to say they were good and everything they were touted to be the Hogs. Then we got into the middle '90s when it was the Cowboys and the and then the Packers came in there too. But you can sprinkle in the 49ers because they played a different type of game as far as um they were. I'm gonna use the word they were technically scheme blockers, but they were effective at what they did and how they did it. But you talk about the Redskins, you talk about the Cowboys, you talk about the Green Bay. Those guys were, road graders. Okay, um, and then those were a lot of those teams. They had great offensive linemen. I mean, you know we were all pains in the what's to one another. So, but we've slugged it out. So,
Frank,
and
you want to follow up there with some
what's
questions there?
that?
I asked Frank here if he wants to come in and ask a couple more questions here before we run out of time.
Well, I was thinking, Greg, when you asked that question and Mike answered it, I think that era had a lot to do with sort of the incredible rise of interest in the NFL because of those teams, because of the tough defenses, the great offenses, just like college basketball took off after the Bird Magic national championship game, and the '80s started to really propel NCAA major college basketball in ways that hadn't been before. And I think the same thing with the NFL. I mean, it's easy to think the NFL has always been the way it is now, but it had to get there. And I think
Well,
and I think that well, go ahead, Mike, please.
well, let's just put it this way. When I was with the Giants in the early years of my career, I heard stories of the Mara family going down to, the downtown New York, the theater area, you know, trying to sell tickets for the game. Now, I don't know how much of all that is true, but I believe partially that would be a statement that I think would be fairly accurate of the early years of the NFL. So, but the Maras, the Mara family with the Giants, they were definitely football people, and I was, thankful for that opportunity for that to be part of my career. And then the Richardson family down there in the Carolina Panther land, we came in as a new team in 1995. So it was an honor to be part of that. And then we kind of started breaking records down there too. Um, we almost go to another Super Bowl in '96, but we fell short up in Green Bay, which sometimes it happens.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting because we like to think everything is sort of level, but it's not. And the more you talk, the more I'm convinced that really was an era, the era of the '90s, helped the NFL, help build it to what it is today, which is there's no professional league that's even close to the
Yeah,
NFL. I mean, if you look, and you may have looked at, if you look at the first 4 weeks of the NFL schedule this year, I mean, they start with Baltimore at Buffalo with two MVP quarterbacks going against each other. I mean, they don't mess around. They have a great product and they know how to showcase it. But like anything, you have to get to that point, and the NFL matured.
And
Um,
Frank,
and good.
Frank, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but on that same note, I heard an interesting comment from the commissioner. Was asked a question, something about Major League Baseball, and he emphatically stated that he was not in the NFL was not in competition with the NBA or Major League Baseball. They were in works competition with Amazon and Google and that sort of thing. That's what he said. So basically, what he's saying is we're bigger than that, and he's right. It's a worldwide corporation now.
They've done an excellent job with the brand of the NFL. So I mean, you can't beat it. So it's like they definitely done a great job with it, and it's on it's on a lot of different stations now. So there's no more 3, 5, or 8. There's like you got to pay attention. It's like a puzzle sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Some games are on Amazon, some games will be on Paramount. It's like it's kind of an interesting way of doing it, but I get it. Just so the streaming gets better when they put them on those app type of channels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, Mike, I tell you what, it's been a heck of a lot of fun talking to you. Here's some great stories, and again, loved watching you play during your career. A lot of fun to watch. Great football player. I can't tell you how much we appreciate you giving us some time tonight. It's been a blast.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for having me. And anytime you all need, you want to have a chat, let's, just let me know. I'll be around.
Well, Frank,
that's great. We'll have you back. I'll tell you.
Hey, Frank, since he said that, we don't want to let him off the hook. Since he said that, we do a pre and post game show after all the Mountaineer football games, and we always need that person, the expert, to come in with us. So you keep your phone handy.
Just let me know. I'm available for you.
Sounds great.
Thank you, Mike. You were great.
Yes, sir.
Thanks you guys.
Lot,
I appreciate your time.
All
you guys
right,
have a good evening.
You too.
All right. Wow, Frank, great stories. I love to hear it. I'm telling you, what a picture he would be. He's got just got a aura about him on the screen. I think he would.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, he's the real deal. I mean, the word that comes to mind is authentic. I mean, Mike Fox is the real deal, kind of person you'd want as a friend, a brother, and a neighbor. He really, and he's right. I mean, and Coach Rodriguez was talking about this today, and I won't mention the person he mentioned because there's so many people I know like that. And that is, when you look at the person today and he's very successful, well, how did he get there? Well, he got there through hard work and diligence and dedication. And I think that's something that, call it accountability if you want, personal accountability, to be the best you can be. And, I laugh. We think about that as though, that's a cliche, but it's really important to be dedicated, to want to be successful, and to pay the price to be able to be that way.
Yeah, and we don't, you and I don't talk a lot to the current players, of course, but I think you noticed, like I noticed, when you talk to Mike Fox or Brian Joswiak, Freddie Smalls, Eugene Napoleon, folks like that, you just get a different feel about the Mountaineers then and now. The title of our show, but you can there's just something in them that it just makes that they're Mountaineers and they love their time at WVU and they support the program, and we're happy because we can see them coming back into the fold now with Coach Rodriguez up there. It seems like they're more involved, more people involved, more excitement. And like Mike said, it takes these guys really to get that program back and keep it going. And you got to have everybody on board, not just your current group. You got to have past and present. So it's exciting to hear that from him.
Yeah, it's more than the alums being donors. They need to be engaged. They need to have a say, and that's one of the things the coach has done. He's brought back, Pat White and others that played in the program and understand what it means to be a Mountaineer. And that's one of the selling points for Rodriguez himself, having played at West Virginia, graduated from West Virginia, having been the head coach before. He understands it and knows what it means, and that's the standard that you really want to strive to that. And I was thinking too about what John Antonic said last week, which was very candid, that West Virginia is not going to get from A to Z the kinds of players that Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan are going to get. And so you want players that are open to learning, want to develop, are hard-nosed, and essentially leave the program much better players than when they entered the program. And I understand times have changed with the portal and so on, but that's what I've just said is no mystery. That's what you have to strive for.
Yep. And I think Coach Rodriguez again, him played in that era, same era, understands that. And even though there is this portal, it still allows you to, or it does allow you to look for certain types of players, and I think that's what he's going to do. And there's not a lot of Mike Foxes and Brian Joseph in the world, but you get those guys that have that mental acuity and attitude and develop them into that. And I think that's what Coach Rodriguez is hopefully looking to do. And I'm sure it's what he's looking to do because he wants that attitude back as well. And just exciting times. It's so much fun talking to these guys and just hearing about their time up there and what it was like. And those great memories for me. I'm sure much greater for them, but always fun to talk to these folks.
Oh yeah, amen.
I don't know, Frank, and I failed to ask you this before. I don't know if you had the Voice College football promo tonight. I don't know if we're doing that tonight or not. I'll ask you. We're
going to skip it tonight.
Okay, that sounds good to me. You want to go ahead and talk about our guest next week just a little bit before we?
Well, we're still working on it. We're still working on it. In fact, Mike is still in the back room. Right, he talked about Bill Kurlavich. Yeah, and we're trying to work it out with him. And no, it's all right. He may be with us next week. We're trying to work it out. I see Mike is in the back room. So, but we're going to get Bill's agreed to come on the show, Mike, and so we're going to have him on the show soon. Maybe as early as next week, but if not, he'll be there soon.
Yeah, we'll Mike can reach out there. He could be our conduit there because I didn't mean to put you on the spot. It's in my mind. Frank, since I've been retired, I never know what date or day it is. I'm just always up in the air. I never realized next week's the 13th, and I knew we were open on the 13th. So that's my fault for putting you on the spot.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, hopefully we can get Kurlavich. That would be awesome. I also want to mention I got a new watcher tonight, new viewer. My brother-in-law, Matt Hanshoe. We call him. I always called him. He was a baseball coach for a while. So I call him Hurricane Hardball Handshoe, Triple H. Him and his ladies watching tonight, so I want to give him a shout out. But anyway, hopefully we can get Kurlavich in next week. It'll be awesome, and looking forward to that. And again, great night with Mike Fox. What a pleasure that was, and we hope everybody at home watching enjoyed it half as much as we did because I know they did. They'll want to watch it over and over. So, Frank. Thanks again to you for all the hard work you put into this. Darren, appreciate you in the background, taking care of all the technology. And we appreciate, of course, everyone for tuning in and watching. Spread the word. Let everybody know where they can watch it and how they can watch it on the New River Network, Voice College Football, YouTube, Facebook, Roku, and a local channel here in the Fayette, Raleigh, Kanawha County areas. So thank you for tuning in tonight. We'll look forward to bringing you another episode of the Mountaineer Locker Room then and now next week. Right on the New River Network. Thanks, everybody, and have a great evening.